All right, welcome back to another episode of the Psychopedia podcast. I'm your co-host, Hank Sinatra, here with my co-host, who I lionize.
Investigator Slater. What does that mean? Roar.
It means to treat someone as very important.
Oh, amazing. Queen of the jungle.
It just came right from my heart and soul.
How do you spell that?
Lionize.
It really is lion.
Just like you would have thought.
Right. Just like I assumed.
Just like you would have thought.
Right.
Anyway, what's up?
Everything.
You got a lot of shit going on, and I don't know any of it. It's at this point, it's bothering me.
I'll bring you into the fold. I like to surprise you. I like your genuine reaction to things.
I do too.
But I also hate not knowing things, which we've learned on 2 episodes where I knew nothing.
Oh, that's right.
And, I was miserable. So I can bring you
into... Surprise.
I don't know what that was.
You will. Welcome to the episode. If this is your first time here, welcome. We're so glad to have you. If this is your 100th time here, welcome home.
Freak.
And we are, crushingly at the end of an era right now.
I am so sorry for you. Because I realize how much you have enjoyed the Diddy series.
Yeah.
And getting to talk about all of the figures you've basically grown up with, more or less, right? All of these players in here. And I know how it feels when something wonderful comes to an end. So I'm sorry that this is part 3.
Remember that meme when you finish a series on Netflix and the guy's just staring out into the beach?
Yeah, until the next one comes up.
That's like me right now.
Don't worry, we'll have so many more.
I redid that.
This.
And I wrote, when you finish Netflix.
That's perfect for you.
Yeah, I think it took a little time for people to get. But then once it hit, that was 8 years ago I made that.
Favorite type of humor. When I don't actually understand at first, but I don't understand it either. So I'm absorbing it. It's haha. And then it hits.
Calculating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the brilliance. If you can create that type of long-term downstream effect, it's comic genius.
We don't even know the long-term downstream effects of my memes on this population.
True that.
Thanks. Anyway, so we're going to get into Diddy Part 3, but I also just want to bring something up. Drake is suing Universal because he thinks that Not Like Us was artificially boosted.
You mean the numbers of really?
What a bitch move.
Oh, yeah, that's not great.
He's just making it worse and worse for himself. There's no way this song could possibly be that popular. Dude, he came in and owned the entire year.
Right.
My 7-year-old knows all the words to that song, which, by the way, we're listening to clean versions now because I heard him rap, "This is not a song about how I sling crack and move cocaine. And I was like, all right, that's it. We got to get rid of it. My 7-year-old's rapping about selling cocaine.
I always kind of secretly wondered that because you're always saying, which is so cute, how you and your boys will literally listen to the same music and rap. And I'm like, how does that work?
Yeah,
exactly.
Listen, I've come to my senses.
Okay, I know it sucks. It sucks to be a grown-up sometimes.
Yeah, it is what it is. But they're doing great now. Before we get into this week's episode, I just want to say, if you're here, we love you. Thank you. Commit to us. Share, subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever. Just if you haven't done it yet, you can always undo it. Why not just do it right now while you're listening?
Please and thank you.
Please and thank you. Yeah, exactly. Leave us a review on Spotify, which is also known as a comment. We love seeing those.
And on Apple as well.
And on Apple, we love those because they're so few and far between, and Apple makes you wait for it.
Yes.
So then you get hit with a bunch of reviews, and it's like Christmas every
I think in the beginning we used to text each other that. Happy review Christmas, happy review Hanukkah, whatever.
And on YouTube, do your part and leave a heart.
I did a heart in front of the camera. If anybody's on YouTube, that was for you.
Yeah, and you are wearing red today, so you look like...
And jewels in between my fingers.
I know, it's like a really fancy brass knuckles.
Yes, it is. It's weird, hence the reason I love it.
Okay, yeah.
It's like floating bling.
Floating bling. So I'm also going to read a couple of Patreon names. If you love us and you're not getting enough of what you need, obviously we have a solution for you. It's patreon.com/psychopediapod, where you get more episodes per month over there than you do here. I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't want to like oversell it. There's a lot going on over there. We have a lot of fun. The group chat, the book club, the live Zoom. It's a good time.
Just speak the truth. You're not overselling.
If you're into it, we'd like to see you over there. Now, for the Patreon names, I've chosen a few here that are challenging. One that's very challenging to me. One that's going to be challenging to you, and I'll start with that one. Short Stack.
Oh, hi.
I know it's cute, but it also does feel like a bit of an insult.
I didn't take it that way at all.
Short Stack?
Yeah, it's a little thing of pancakes, a little cutie stack of pancakes.
I think when you re-listen to this episode, you'll see that you did quite, in fact, take it that way with the way you responded. You're like, okay.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
It's going to be fun.
Okay.
Baddies and Bonnets.
Nice.
I want to know who you are. Okay?
I mean, you know enough.
I know enough. You're right. Adria Aguilar. Emily Ward.
Hey, Emily.
Coffee first, always.
Amen.
Simple but powerful. And Keeve Busher.
Hi, Keeve. How do you spell that, Tank?
Buckle the fuck up. CAOIMHE.
Did you Google the pronunciation?
I did not, so I'm swinging blind here.
Damn, you really swung for the fences.
Yeah. Yeah, I put all my energy into that one.
I can't believe you came up with that.
I am cooked right now.
Well done.
I am quivering right now. I am literally shaking right now.
Listen, you weren't actually terribly far off. You knew it was something.
Keeve.
Interesting. A unique pronunciation for that spelling.
Quiva.
Okay.
All right. So without any further quivering, let's get into this week's episode, the sad and final wrap it up part to the saga, the trilogy of the Diddy case. That everything happened allegedly, but I've never been a fan of him and his whole operation.
And I will say the good news and the bad news is that there will be more cases like this, headlining cases that we will cover, Tank, that you will vibe with.
Oh, headline cases that I'll vibe with?
Yeah.
Right,
so I just want to provide a little summary of part 2. This is in no way a substitution of part 2 or part 1. So if you have not listened to either of those parts, I implore you to do so.
Amen, sister.
And as Tank said, also, we have to constantly use the word allegedly for legal purposes. And I'm sorry if it sounds redundant or like I'm, just repeating myself, but there is no choice in the matter. So
we are not rich enough to get sued.
Cannot get sued for this. So in part 2, we expanded upon our part 1 discussions of the bi-coastal raids on Diddy's mansions in Miami and LA, diving into why, despite the spectacle and what was recovered, Diddy wasn't cuffed on the spot. The reasons I believe were strategic and layered and likely legally sound. However, there are theories floating around, including one provided by Anthony, one of our producers, that suggest potential cover-ups by individuals in high positions who wanted to buy time to disappear one or two things before Diddy's eventual arrest. Like I said in the beginning, I think of part 1 at this point, there's a million paths I could take on every single point that I raise, and we could do a Diddy series, 20 parts. So you can ask all the questions you have because chances are there's going to be an explanation. Yeah. I just chose not to.
Well, also it's hard to get a search warrant and an arrest warrant.
Right. Exactly right. We talked about that in part 2. It's very difficult to do a federal search warrant and a federal arrest warrant and to serve those simultaneously.
Yeah.
So from there in part 2, we ventured into a topic that isn't getting much airtime anywhere else, at least not that I've seen. And that's the possibility that Diddy himself was a victim of sexual abuse as a child. Mm-hmm. While there's no hard proof yet, my own investigation into the timing and circumstances are impossible to ignore. And that was spurred by your very brilliant thought that it was worth looking into.
Yeah.
We connected dots to his time as a student and an altar boy at an all-boys Catholic school in the Bronx, a place that was later revealed to have been riddled with sexual abuse during Diddy's time in attendance, where multiple clergy members who were named in part 2 were eventually exposed, arrested, and some even convicted for the horrific acts against innocent children. Mm-hmm. Then came Cassie Ventura's bombshell lawsuit. We analyzed the details and context of every allegation she made, and we uncovered how her bravery not only shook the foundations of Diddy's empire, but opened the floodgates for other survivors to step forward and seek justice. Yeah. And we ended part 2 on the now infamous Diddy list, an unofficial but much discussed roster circulating online containing the names of A-list celebrities who might be implicated, complicit, or merely adjacent to the horrors of Diddy's alleged actions.
I feel like that's dangerous, by the way. The Diddy list.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
First of all, it could also be very distracting from like real perpetrators and real players because people are shining all this light on anybody who ever had anything to do with Diddy.
I know. It's like the Epstein list.
Yeah.
If you took his plane anywhere, first of all, people charter their jets out all the time. Second of all, everybody that ever gets on any plane is reported and logged.
Yes.
And, you know, if you got on his plane in 1997, you're on the list.
Right. Yeah.
Even if he was just a financial guy that you knew.
Right.
At that, you know what I mean? I think rumors started to circulate in the late aughts.
The naughties.
You know what the aughts are?
Yeah.
Okay, I hate it, by the way.
I know, I do too.
But anyway.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point to raise too. Like, and just because somebody attended a party with Diddy or had any type of business relationship with him and whatever, it doesn't obviously mean that they were complicit or had any idea of what was going on. That said, I do think some of the names listed on Diddy's list that we covered in part 2, I think we're going to find that they very much were complicit. I
just talked to a guy who attended a school at which one of the teachers decades later was convicted of sexual abuse, and now they're going after the founder of the school.
Sure.
And this guy is like doing everything in his power to protect the founder because he knew that there's no way that he knew. This guy had such a positive impact on his life and so many other people. The owner, not the teacher that did it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So there's different types of notice in law. If somebody knew what was going on or had enough information to reasonably believe that something was going on and they let it happen. And then there's constructive notice, meaning as the owner, you had a duty to stay on top of things and you should have known based on any number set of circumstances that this was going on in your school. And that's where the liability comes in.
Yes.
I'm not an attorney, but I do understand a little bit of that.
Yeah, and there's certainly a level of culpability. It's just like to what
To what degree? Exactly. You know? Exactly. Whether the celebrities turned a blind eye on the Diddy's list, played an active role, or knew nothing at all, their names on that list have only added fuel to an already blazing fire.
Yeah.
And trust me, there's a lot more smoke to chase. So now we are officially kicking off part 3, the grand finale, the denouement of our very first 3-part series here at Psychopedia Central.
The what?
Denouement.
What is denouement?
So it means like the finale. It's a fancy word.
Is it an English word?
No, it's French.
Well, you said it French, but it sounds like it could be pronounced like denouement or something.
Well, it's not.
Denouement.
There.
Okay.
Okay. Part 3.
Part 3.
First, let's discuss the most recent update in the case, which occurred Friday, November 22nd, 2024, which is just 4 days before the recording of this episode. Mm-hmm. So Diddy, who has been held at the Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, in Brooklyn since his arrest in September, appeared for his 3rd bail hearing in front of U.S. District Judge Arun Subramanian. Diddy had previously appeared twice before 2 different judges regarding bail and was denied both times. Those judges sided with the prosecution, deeming Diddy a threat to society due to the allegations against him, his potential ability to be a flight risk, and his involvement in obstructing justice by improperly contacting witnesses and alleged victims.
Yes?
Yes. However, with a new judge now assigned to the case, Judge Subramanian, Diddy has another chance to plead for bail, and he did that this past Friday. So the prosecution, in turn, in preparation for this bail hearing, came prepared, like guns blazing, with even more reasons as to why Diddy should not be granted bail.
Wow.
They allege that Diddy used other inmates' access codes to make 3-way calls, attempting to influence a potential jury pool, coordinate witness intimidation, and even launch social media campaigns in his favor. So one such campaign allegedly occurred on his birthday when he called his children from prison. Mm-hmm. And they recorded it on social media. Yeah. They were like singing to him. They had a birthday cake. So he's essentially, obviously it would seem anyway, or according to the prosecution, he's allegedly trying to appeal to potential jurors and show like his human side and that he has a family and all this stuff. The prosecution also claimed that he'd been sending text messages from jail. At the hearing, Diddy's defense argued that the prosecution had orchestrated a targeted search of his cell under the guise of searching for contraband, but with the real intention of locating and photographing material protected under attorney-client privilege. This material was allegedly found and photographed by an investigator with the Bureau of Prisons.
Really?
Yep. Now, the prosecution has denied any involvement in this search. They said they didn't even have any idea that the search for contraband was even happening, let alone letting it be really a ruse to get their hands on attorney-client privilege documents.
Yeah.
And the judge has since ordered that the photographs be destroyed and that the information contained therein could not be used by the prosecution.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that even
admissible?
worth?
No.
Yeah.
Anyway, regarding Diddy's third request for bail, it has not yet been ruled upon, which means there is a possibility that he will indeed be released on bail.
He's been in jail this whole time.
This whole time.
Wow. Oh, that's right. He's in MDC. Yeah.
Yep. And apparently he's not doing great.
It's a rough place.
It's horrific. It is. So anyway, I want to talk about the legal framework that has allowed survivors or plaintiffs to bring forward their lawsuits. One of these laws is especially near and dear to my heart, which you know, Tank, because I helped to lobby for its passage here in New York, and my family's law firm played a very pivotal role in advocating for it and on behalf of survivors of sexual abuse. So this law has opened the door for countless people to seek justice, legal recourse, and hopefully a measure of closure, regardless of when their sexual abuse occurred over the course of their adult lifetime.
Yeah.
And that law is called the Adult Survivors Act, or the ASA.
ASA.
Passed in New York in 2022, the ASA introduced a 1-year look-back window, giving survivors of sexual assault whose cases were previously barred by the statute of limitations the opportunity to file civil lawsuits against their abusers and the institutions that enabled or covered up the abuse.
Oh, they're civil lawsuits?
Yes, they are.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if it happened recently, it could also be criminal, but if it happened decades ago, that statute of limitations has closed. But this law now enabled them for 1 year to go civil. Mm-hmm. This groundbreaking legislation is modeled after the Child Victim Act, which offered a similar opportunity to those abused as minors. Okay, but the ASA specifically focuses on adult survivors and recognizes that the trauma of sexual assault often prevents individuals from coming forward within the limited time previously allowed by the law.
Yeah.
Meaning, and this was a huge tagline when we were trying to get this law passed, trauma takes time. The brain and body process trauma on their own timetable, and one's readiness to come forward may take months, years, even decades, if at all.
If at all, yeah.
Laws have historically been out of step with the science of trauma and the realities that survivors face. But with the passage of the ASA, the law finally recognized that the healing process is unique to each person and that the legal system must accommodate these nuances. And during that 1-year look-back period, over 3,000 lawsuits were filed.
Wow.
Pop quiz.
Oh.
Of the 3,000 or so lawsuits filed under the ASA, how many were filed by my family's law firm?
Is each lawsuit one person or multiple people?
We're talking individual survivors.
Okay.
A, 550. B, 1,200. C, 2,200.
2,200.
Yes. How'd you know that? Did we talk about this?
Because I thought it was like 30,000.
Oh.
And I didn't. And then you said,
"Sorry to disappoint you."
Said 3,000, and I was like, "Oh, I've been telling people the wrong shit."
I mean, there's Child Victims Act cases that we have as well. Maybe when you add it all together, that number is closer. But
that's including everything, like Boy Scouts, Catholic Church, prison, everything.
That is not including everything. This is just Adult Survivors Act. So the Boy Scouts cases, that was a bankruptcy case. That was totally different from this.
And how many of them?
14,000.
Maybe that's what I was thinking.
That's what you're thinking of.
Okay.
And I know I speak for my family's entire firm when I say that we're incredibly proud to stand beside and behind every single one of those brave survivors. So that's the ASA. Then there's the Gender Motivated Violence Act, or the GMVA. And this law, enacted in New York City, provides another vital tool for survivors seeking justice by allowing individuals who have experienced gender-based violence to file civil lawsuits against their perpetrators. Mm-hmm. A special look-back window under the GMVA is currently in effect, running from March 1st 2023, that's when it started, to March 1st, 2025. And it enables survivors to bring forward claims that were previously time barred.
Is this only in New York?
It is only in New York or areas around New York City. So the GMVA specifically targets acts of violence motivated by gender, recognizing the profound and pervasive harm that these crimes inflict. Under this law, survivors can pursue damages and hold their abusers accountable, even in cases where criminal charges were never even filed or resulted in acquittal, which I think is interesting. Mm-hmm. The act highlights that gender-motivated violence is not merely a personal violation, but a symptom of broader societal power imbalances and systemic discrimination.
Yeah.
Speaking of New York laws and themes of justice, while Diddy may have been ceremoniously handed the key to New York City by Mayor Eric Adams just last year in September 2023 for serving the public and the common good, he now finds himself sitting behind bars without a key in sight.
Yo, let me get that key.
Remember that key you gave to me?
Where did we put that key? I can't find my keys.
So this came to a head, we know, when he was arrested following the raids on his homes, coinciding with a wave of civil lawsuits filed by individuals alleging sexual abuse and assault. With all that said, let's now take a close look at the already filed lawsuits.
Okay.
And the first one we already talked about in part 2, which was Cassie Ventura's. And it's going to feel like a lot because we're going to go through the details of each lawsuit. But I'm doing this on purpose. I'm doing this for a reason because I want you, Tank, and I want everybody who's listening/watching to realize that every single lawsuit has been filed by an actual human being.
Yeah.
And there's the commonality is the alleged perpetrator, right? Diddy plus others, which you will go on to hear. But do not lose sight for 1 second that these are human beings who have endured what I'm going to walk you through. And every single lawsuit is going to sound similar, but is different.
Yeah.
So I want you to really...
I'm going to lock in.
I want you to lock in, and I want you to be on this journey with me and with all of these survivors.
Okay.
The second one, music producer Rodney Lil Rod Jones Jr.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's a Grammy-nominated record producer who worked very closely with Diddy for 14 months, producing 9 songs for his album Off the Grid. And he's filed a 105-page complaint against Diddy, naming other celebrities and musicians as well, including Meek Mill, which we discussed in part 2.
Yep.
Accusing him and the people who work with him, Diddy, of being part of an illegal racketeering enterprise. In his complaint, Jones indicates that he has irrefutable evidence of the acquisition, use, and distribution of ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, and mushrooms. B, the displaying and distribution of unregistered illegal firearms. And C, the solicitation of minors and sex workers. So Lil Rod is alleging that he was tasked with procuring drugs and soliciting sex workers to, quote, perform sex acts to the pleasure of Mr. Combs. Jones alleges that Diddy also required him to record these sex acts and that Diddy would often threaten to inflict bodily harm on him if he did not comply with his demands. Jones alleged in his complaint that Diddy kept specific bottles of alcohol designated for females, and that's a quote, on hand, and that Diddy forced all the women to drink laced de Leon liquor, which is his...
Tusi?
What?
Tusi?
Tusi. Very good. Yes.
Really?
Well, that's one of it. That was like a combination, a special cocktail he made of all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
But specifically, Lil Rod's complaint says, and this is a quote, upon information and belief, Mr. Combs laced the liquor with ecstasy. So the phrasing upon information and belief is used when a plaintiff doesn't have firsthand knowledge of the facts, but believes them to be true based on information that they've received. Lil Rod also accuses Diddy of sexual harassment and assault for allegedly grabbing him without his consent and forcing him to work while Diddy would parade around naked. Additionally, Lil Rod is alleging that Diddy once left him alone in a makeshift studio on a yacht with Cuba Gooding Jr., who he said then began touching, groping, and fondling his upper thighs near his groin. He said Cuba did not stop until he was forcibly pushed away.
Wow.
Now, you may be wondering why Diddy is being named for the alleged action of another grown adult. So in this scenario, Diddy's alleged responsibility is being based on the concept of negligence and facilitation, which are often central to cases of this nature. Here's how Diddy's potential accountability is essentially being framed as I understand it. So in his position of power and control, right? He was essentially controlling the environment, including this makeshift studio on the yacht. So he had a duty to ensure the safety of individuals in his space, especially when it involved minors or vulnerable individuals.
Yeah.
Now, you may be thinking he's not a minor, nor is he vulnerable. But it's my understanding that Lil Rod is essentially alleging to have been vulnerable given the power imbalance, with Diddy essentially being above him.
And threatening him physically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then there's the proximity to known behavior. If Diddy was aware or should have reasonably been aware of any predatory tendencies or inappropriate behaviors on the part of individuals like Cuba Gooding Jr., then allowing Lil Rod to be left alone with him could be construed as willful negligence or recklessness.
I'll be honest with you, that Cuba thing's messing me up.
I know, and it's not the last time his name will pop up.
Yeah, Cuba, it feels like you're going to tell me Wayne Brady was involved next.
Facilitation. So by creating or enabling a situation where such behavior could occur, whether by leaving a minor alone with an adult or failing to supervise, Diddy could be seen as indirectly facilitating the abuse, even if he did not directly participate.
Yeah, I could see that.
Then there's a duty of care. When you're hosting or managing an event, individuals have a duty of care to ensure the safety of those present. So leaving someone in a potentially vulnerable situation, especially when power dynamics and intoxication may be factors, could breach that duty.
Otherwise, it seems like you're doing nothing but facilitating.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you have a party and you invite a bunch of people that you know are predators and you're just like, oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, you still have a little bit of liability going on,
for
if
sure.
not a lot.
Yeah.
And then the last thing here is the pattern of alleged abuse. So in lawsuits like this, patterns of behavior often play a role. If Diddy is alleged to have created environments that enable abuse or exploitation on multiple occasions, which is exactly what is being alleged, then it strengthens claims of his culpability in Lil Rod's instance, for example.
Ghost?
Yeah. I hope so. That was awesome. Okay.
Hi, Robert the Doll.
Okay, the third lawsuit. This one is filed by Jane Doe. So I spoke about this particular Jane Doe in part 1. She was just 17 years old and in 11th grade in Detroit when she was approached by Bad Boy Records president Harvey Pierre. So this survivor claims that on the phone, Diddy convinced her to accompany Harvey Pierre on a third assailant on a private jet to come to his studio in New York City after first flying into Teterboro, New Jersey.
Right.
And this is important. So remember how I said they first flew into New Jersey, okay? And then they went to his studio in the city. So this Jane Doe alleges that once at the studio, which is called Daddy's House, Diddy and his associates, including Harvey Pierre, pumped her with drugs and alcohol before allegedly gang raping her. Her complaint states that, quote, while Mr. Combs was raping Miss Doe, he complained that he could not get off unless she pinched his nipples as hard as she could, after which Diddy then watched as a third assailant raped her while she told him to stop. After third assailant was finished, Mr. Pierre took his turn at raping Miss Doe and then violently forced her to give him oral sex, during which Miss Doe was choking and struggling to breathe.
Oh my God.
According to the complaint. Now, Cassie Ventura's attorneys, Douglas Wigder and Meredith Feiertag, provided the court with several color photographs snapped from that very night in question, and it includes one that clearly shows the 17-year-old girl, who's known as Jane Doe, sitting on Diddy's lap.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly, and sadly in my opinion, the court already ruled that if this case moves forward, Jane Doe will have to use her real name, as she, quote, had not sufficiently justified her request to remain anonymous. Now, a judge may require someone alleging sexual assault to not remain anonymous for several reasons, primarily related to the legal principles of transparency and fairness in the judicial process.
Yeah.
So here's some key factors that could influence such a decision. 1, the public's right to know who the accuser is. 2, accountability. So this is intended to ensure that both parties involved, the plaintiff and the defendant, are treated equally under the law. 3, deterrence of frivolous claims. 4, legal precedent. And then 5, protection of the defendant's rights. Because remember, defendants have rights and they have a right to confront their accuser, and they are, considered innocent until or if proven guilty.
My first thought was 3. That was like my
deterrence of frivolous claims.
First concern, like, I'm just going to make a claim. I don't have to say who I am, so I can just do these, as many as I want. No accountability.
Yeah.
Which obviously is going to be a rare occurrence. People want to remain anonymous for other reasons.
Sure.
But I could see how that law would have to be put into place.
Considered, yeah. The fourth plaintiff, Lisa Gardner. In a 22-page lawsuit, Lisa Gardner accuses Diddy and R&B singer Aaron Hall from the group Guy of forcing her to have sex against her will when she was just 16 years old.
I don't know who Aaron Hall is. I don't know who Guy is.
Yeah.
Never heard of Guy.
Yeah, I hadn't either.
When were they around?
He was born in 1964, and he joined the group Guy in 1988.
Okay, so I was full blown into Long Island hardcore at that time.
So you skipped over this.
8 years old, yeah.
You freak. So Lisa claims that she met them, Aaron Hall and Diddy, at a New York event for Jodeci's album release, after which Diddy allegedly invited Lisa and her friend to Aaron Hall's apartment for an after party. Lisa alleges that Diddy coerced her into sex. Then, while she was getting dressed, Aaron Hall is alleged to have entered the room, pinned her down, and allegedly raped her. Lisa recalls experiencing immense vaginal pain after the alleged assault, fleeing the apartment, and later learning that her friend had also allegedly been raped by both men. The next day, Lisa also alleges that Diddy showed up at her home where he proceeded to physically assault and choke her until she passed out. The complaint states that since the alleged assaults, Lisa has suffered from depression, PTSD, and difficulty in relationships with men. She is seeking a jury trial. By explicitly seeking a jury trial, Lisa appears to be prioritizing justice and a public acknowledgement of her experiences over the privacy and expediency of a potential financial settlement.
Yeah.
Now, Lisa's lawsuit was recently challenged on the grounds that she did not qualify for the ASA, New York's Adult Survivors Act, because she was technically underage. She was not 18 at the time of her alleged rapes. Mm-hmm. And that's correct. So,
for the Adult Survivors Act, you had to be assaulted when you were an adult?
Yeah, 18 or older.
Oh, I thought it was just you're an adult now.
No, that's a good distinction I should have pointed out when I was talking about it. The abuse had to have occurred when you were an adult.
Okay.
So Lisa and her attorney, Tyrone Blackburn, said that since the alleged assault actually took place at Aaron Hall's residence, which was located in New Jersey, they were able to move the lawsuit to Bergen County in New Jersey and to cite a different law, which was New Jersey's Child Victims Act, which allows victims of childhood sexual assault to bring civil claims until the age of 55.
Lawyer smart.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so happy that survivor is able to take legal action.
Yeah.
You know, it's so crazy, all the loopholes that have to be jumped through sometimes.
I know.
The fifth plaintiff, Joy Dickerson Neal, and she filed November 23rd, 2023. In her 22-page complaint, Joy alleges that she met Diddy while appearing in a music video with him when she was just a student at Syracuse University. She claims that during a dinner date on January 3rd, 1991, when she was on school break, Diddy intentionally drugged her, sexually assaulted her, and recorded the assault on video.
1991?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this can go back as far as it needs to.
I'm not worried about that. I can't believe he's been doing it for that long.
Yeah. Days later, a male friend allegedly revealed that he, along with others, had viewed the tape. When Joy asked who had seen the tape, her friend reportedly responded, quote, everyone. Joy states that the incident sent her life into a tailspin, leading to severe depression and suicidal ideation, which required hospitalization after she returned to college. She claims she's endured lifelong trauma from being drugged, assaulted, and victimized allegedly by the distribution of the sex tape, which she describes as revenge porn. She's suing Diddy for assault and battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, human trafficking, and revenge porn.
Also recently put into law the revenge porn thing.
Yes. Since filing her lawsuit, Joy has provided the following statement. I am so thankful for the bravery of the other women that came forward. There's also men, but her quote says women. The Adult Survivors Act, which opened up the filing window to seek justice, and the unwavering support from my attorneys. For 32 years, the only people I have been able to confide in were my close friends and therapists. I'm feeling as if the darkness has been lifted and I can freely move forward in achieving my full potential.
Yeah, that must feel pretty good.
Yeah.
/ freeing.
Exactly. I hope so. The sixth survivor to come forward here with a lawsuit, Grace Omar K. Now here, Diddy's 26-year-old son, Christian King Combs, is being sued for sexual assault, battery, and intentional infliction of emotional distress, among other claims. In a 31-page lawsuit, Grace alleges that she was sexually assaulted while working as a deckhand on the Combs family's yacht during a Christmas 2022 trip in the Caribbean. She's also seeking to hold Diddy liable, accusing him of fostering an environment of debauchery by chartering the yacht and assuming responsibility for its guests. Grace claims the yacht hosted a constant rotation, and that's her phrase in the lawsuit, of suspected sex workers, along with A-list celebrities such as French Montana, and here he is again, Cuba Gooding Jr. She alleges that intoxicated sex workers were frequently found unconscious on board the yacht, and that it was difficult to determine which bottles of alcohol were drugged and which were not.
More like Cuba Gooding Jr., right?
Well, not bad, Ing.
It wasn't good, Ing.
No, it wasn't, Ing. According to her complaint, in the early hours of December 28th, 2022, a heavily intoxicated Christian Combs assaulted her, blocked her from leaving, and stripped off his clothing, and then attempted to force her to perform oral sex. Grace alleges the environment was rife with violence, substance abuse, and disrespect for the crew, and she holds Diddy responsible for enabling such conditions.
I can't even imagine how terrifying that must be.
Oh, especially on a yacht as well.
Just ripping his clothes off in front of you.
It's not just some guy, right? I mean, yes, any man doing that, but like
any man.
A man in that position who hitherto, has been untouchable.
Well, you said it was Diddy's son.
Yes, it was Diddy's son. But the whole Combs crew, I would venture to say, has that air of, untouchability.
But forthwith,
even nicer.
They will be accountable. They will be held to task. But that feeling, it's like watching somebody sharpen a knife in front of you that they're about to stab you with.
Oh.
Yeah,
that's chilling.
Ugh.
The seventh survivor here, Crystal McKinney.
By the way, just quick question. Sorry to jump in. Are these all separate files?
Yes. This isn't a class action suit, so it's not everybody on the same,
So he's just going to be in court every day for years.
Unless, I guess, he settles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the legal proceedings are going to go on endlessly.
Oh, my gosh.
Crystal McKinney claims that she met Diddy when she was 22 years old and modeling, and flown to New York City by a designer to attend a Fashion Week event at Cipriani. The designer selected her outfit, which was a black leather coat and a translucent chiffon beige V-cut shirt, which she says she's preserved, unwashed, and wrapped in plastic following the traumatic events that occurred that night, allegedly. According to her allegations, Diddy told Crystal that he held the power in the industry and that he could help advance her career. Later that night, Crystal says she met Diddy at a studio where he gave her a lace joint, plied her with alcohol, followed her to the bathroom, and forced her to perform oral sex. Following the alleged assault, Crystal believes that Diddy blackballed her in the modeling industry, effectively ending her career.
Yeah, that sounds familiar, Crystal McKinney.
She says that she's since struggled with depression and has even attempted suicide as a result of the incident.
I feel like everybody is just absolutely devastated by this kind of assault.
So, working with survivors amaze me with their strength and their ability to just overcome so much. But I have yet to meet somebody who has emerged unscathed.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that they can't get their lives back on track at all.
Yeah, but it's like it becomes part of you.
But it is sort of their cross to bear, and it's devastating. The eighth survivor, April Lampros. So April filed a 22-page lawsuit against Diddy, accusing him of battery, sexual assault, negligent infliction of emotional distress, and gender-motivated violence. The complaint alleges that April met Diddy in 1994 while she was a college student at FIT, or the Fashion Institute of Technology. Initially, Diddy promised to mentor her while also love-bombing her and showering her with gifts and flowers. However, April claims that she endured 4 terrifying sexual encounters with him over the years. The first alleged assault occurred in 1995 when Diddy pressured her to drink, took her to a hotel, ignored her protests, and raped her. Despite this, April says that she gave him a second chance months later, believing that the first incident may have been some kind of mistake. Mm-hmm. During this encounter in a parking garage, she alleges that Diddy forced his penis into her mouth in view of a parking attendant. Then in 1996, during the third incident, April claims that Diddy forced her and Kim Porter to take ecstasy and engage in sexual acts with each other while he masturbated, after which he raped her. The final incident allegedly occurred in late 2000 when Diddy, who was then dating J-Lo, allegedly showed up at April's apartment with security and tried to coerce her into sex. She says that she refused by not opening her door and essentially preventing anybody from getting inside.
God.
Years later, in 2023, April says that she was informed at an event that a video of her being assaulted by Diddy, recorded without her consent, obviously, had been seen by others.
Isn't it crazy what the brain can do in traumatic experiences? Like, you could somehow convince yourself, maybe it wasn't what I thought.
Right.
Maybe it was I don't know, maybe I just remember it incorrectly.
The survival mechanisms.
I know, you split off.
Don't implode. Right.
Oh my God.
The ninth survivor here, this is an interesting one. His name is Derek Lee Cardello Smith. So Derek is currently incarcerated in a Michigan correctional facility until 2026, serving multiple sentences, including 12 convictions related to criminal sexual conduct and 2 for kidnapping. From behind bars, he's filed a lawsuit alleging that after attending a party with Diddy in 1997, the two engaged in sexual activity with 2 women. According to Derek, Diddy allegedly touched him inappropriately during this orgy and drugged his drink, causing him to pass out. Now, during a virtual hearing in July with Michigan Judge Anna Maria Anzalone, Derek claimed that he recently met with Diddy, so Diddy went to see him in the prison, and Diddy allegedly offered him $2.3 million just to settle the case. And Derek agreed. When the settlement money failed to materialize, Derek requested a temporary restraining order to block Diddy from being able to sell his Los Angeles mansion for $70 million for 90 days. And incredibly, Judge Anzalone granted the request. And this was done as a way of potentially securing assets that might satisfy a potential judgment if the lawsuit were resolved in Derek's favor.
Yeah.
Also, something else was granted to Derek as well. Pop quiz.
Wait, why did you say that one's interesting? Because
This is just fascinating.
Oh, okay.
All of this that's happening behind bars, and that that $70 million for his mansion, he couldn't sell it because he had to, Derek had to make sure that those assets would be available to him from behind bars. It's wild.
Yeah. He's going to be out in a year. He wants to,
True. Pop quiz. What else was granted to Derek / which of the following statements is true?
Oh, I hate these.
I couldn't figure out how to word it.
I was listening to an episode today for Unhinged, and one of my notes is that I wish you would just never do that again. Okay. Because it makes my brain hurt so bad.
I'll take that under advisement.
Which one of these following statements
is true?
Okay, I was going to say is not true. It's it just doesn't, my brain is not calculating. But say the statements. Okay. And one of them is true.
But listen, I will take that under advisement. I'm serious.
One of these statements is true.
One of these statements is true. Which one?
I'll try.
A. Derek requested Diddy's albums be banned from the prison's music catalog, and won.
Okay.
B. Derek insisted on receiving a framed copy of Diddy's arrest report for his cell wall, and got it. C. Derek was awarded a $100 million default judgment after Diddy failed to appear for a court-ordered appearance.
C.
Yes. The fuck?
Hey, sometimes you're on, sometimes you're off.
Yo, he was initially awarded a $100 million award to be received in payments of $10 million judgment. Thank you. Over the course of 10 months.
Wait. $10 million a month?
Yes.
For 10 months?
Yes.
That's good money.
No shit.
That's a good dollar.
You think?
I'd kill your sheep too for that amount of money.
I think it was a calf, but very good that you remember that.
Yeah.
It was subsequently overturned after one of Diddy's attorneys, David Fink, was able to convince the judge to set aside the judgment on the grounds that Derek failed to prove that he effectively served Diddy with the lawsuit in accordance with Michigan law. But do you believe that the first judge went with it?
Yeah.
It's wild. It's just wild.
How many times did you practice subsequently?
A lot.
Yeah, how many?
Probably 7 or 8.
Oh, okay.
subsequently.
I thought you used like $10 million a month for 10 months.
It might have been that much at this point, but I've blocked it out. This is not Derek's first jailhouse lawsuit. He has filed 3 others while incarcerated and is known for his, quote, long history of challenging the judicial system with civil lawsuits, according to the Detroit Metro Times. Okay, the 10th survivor to file a lawsuit, Dawn Richard. Dawn Richard first met Diddy in 2004 after auditioning for season 3 of his MTV reality show Making the Band.
Oh, yeah.
After which she joined his band, Danity Kane.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Dawn alleges in a 55-page lawsuit that during auditions, Diddy called female contestants names like fat, ugly, bitch. I mean, any opportunity this fucker gets, allegedly, to objectify and dehumanize women, he's taking it.
Yeah.
She alleges that Diddy would often enter her dressing room unannounced, touch her butt and breasts, and force her to rehearse wearing just her underwear. If ever she denied Diddy's alleged unwanted sexual advances, he'd retaliate by leaving her off of songs and performances. Danity Kane then disbanded in 2009, but Dawn continued working with Diddy as a member of the newly formed Diddy Dirty Money band, which is a trio
I remember that
included her, Diddy, and singer-songwriter Kalina Harper.
I remember Diddy Dirty Money. It was a bad idea.
Was it? I don't even know what that is, to be honest.
Terrible. Danity Kane was not great.
Well, it's like a reality TV show product.
Dylan.
Oh, you actually know shit from it.
Well, that's the Chappelle Show sketch about it,
okay.
where they made fun of him.
Oh.
Bring me the breast milk of a camel.
Ew. So Dawn alleges that she personally witnessed Diddy physically abuse his then-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, including choking, striking, slapping, and throwing objects at her, such as a scalding hot pan.
Oh.
Dawn also claims that she tried to help Cassie, but was met with threats from Diddy, including phrases like, "You want to die today?" and "I end people." Dawn's lawsuit further alleges that Diddy often threw objects like phones, laptops, and studio equipment in very violent outbursts. She recounts seeing Kim Porter, we mentioned extensively in part 1, and this is now our second time this part mentioning her, who was the mother of 3 of Diddy's children. Dawn recalls seeing Kim leave a studio in 2005 visibly injured and in tears. Dawn also claims that she witnessed parties where underage girls were given drugs and alcohol, and despite many appearing lethargic or unconscious, Diddy and others performed sexual acts on them. According to her complaint, Diddy allegedly referred to these gatherings as a buffet, saying, quote, this is from the lawsuit, "This is what we do. This is how we party." Dawn's lawsuit also claims that she's owed an estimated $1.2 million in unpaid wages and royalties, more than $355,000 for U.S. tour performances, and at least $1.5 million for her promotion of Diddy's vodka brand. Dawn is asking as well for a jury trial. Compensatory damages such as lost wages, royalties, publishing and touring, compensation for severe emotional distress, civil penalties, punitive damages, and attorney's fees. 11. Talia Graves. 53-year-old Talia Graves has filed a lawsuit accusing Diddy of raping her in 2001 after tying her up while she was unconscious. At the time, Talia, who was then 25, claims that she was summoned to Diddy's studio to discuss her boyfriend's performance as an executive at Bad Boy Records. According to the complaint, Diddy and his bodyguard, Joseph Big Joe Sherman, picked Talia up from her mother's home in Queens and gave her a glass of wine during the ride. She alleges that the wine caused her to briefly lose consciousness. Talia says that she awoke naked with her hands tied behind her back. Sherman allegedly slammed her face into a pool table before Diddy entered the room naked, applied lubricant, and we know he had plenty of that, and violently raped her both anally and vaginally.
That's not funny.
No. She further alleges that Sherman then forced his penis into her mouth and struck her until she lost consciousness again.
This guy's just been on a bullshit tear for 33 years, 34 years, or more.
Unstoppable. Until now.
Everywhere he goes. Every person he comes in contact with.
Exactly. I read a source somewhere where somebody said something along the lines of, He could have had anybody he wanted. Like many women would have like willingly given him what he wanted. Why did he have to? It's not that, exactly. People don't understand that rape and assault is not about the sex. It's the violence, it's the dominance.
There's some really crazy people in the music business. There was this woman that I worked for. I don't want to say her name, even though I do, but I don't.
No.
She's the worst person I've ever worked for in my entire life. She was... and this was like peak Diddy time. Diddy had the show, and he was like known for being a tyrannical boss. And this woman she leaned into it. She was the first day there. I was the assistant to the A&R reps. So like I was
assistant to the manager.
I was an intern,
right?
Working for free, college credit.
Yeah.
So she wanted me to go downstairs and get her breakfast. I didn't even get off the elevator. She called me screaming. Where are you? Where are you with my breakfast? I got meetings. I got shit to do. I was like, well, this is how it's going to be, huh? Yeah. Wow. This sucks.
Yeah.
You suck. And she never got any nicer.
Did you stick around for the full internship?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because that's the thing, too. Like, you probably felt so grateful for the opportunity, right?
Well, Jay-Z was the president at that time as well.
Okay, so you're a different, you got your own motives going on here.
Yeah.
But that really does encompass why so many people stick around for the, you know.
And they know that. The higher-ups know that. That's why they just let loose. They don't have any kind of
They prey upon that. They feed on that.
Yeah.
They exploit that.
Yeah, the biggest thing I learned interning for Def Jam is that I have no interest in working in the music business.
Yeah.
So that's what I learned there.
That's sort of what I learned when I did my Capitol Hill internship.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it has to do with the fact that we're working for free and being treated not great. That it turns us against the whole environment.
That's how it's going to be even worse. You think getting paid is not going to change anything.
Right, but you'd be on the other side of it, and hopefully maybe we could have broken it. You could have been nice to the intern you were given. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
After the assault, Talia alleges that a taxi driver took her to a hospital and urged her to report the attack, but she says that she was too afraid, of course, fearing that it would affect her custody battle during her divorce.
Oh, man.
And that's the other thing. People come with their lives, right? So it's not just even the here and now situation that they're being confronted with. It's so much, like in Talia's case, her children or child.
Mm-hmm.
During a recent press conference that took place on September 24th, alongside her attorney, named Gloria Allred, Talia stated, "The violation I experienced has caused lasting effects on my body, including ongoing health problems. I want to continue this journey toward recovery and healing." The next plaintiff is also maintaining her anonymity, and she's going by Jane Doe.
Mm-hmm.
In an 18-page lawsuit, a woman who is choosing, as I said, to remain anonymous, alleges that Diddy drugged her and that she was sexually assaulted on various trips that she felt forced to go on with him. This woman indicates that she met Diddy in 2020 overseas when she was invited on a trip that he paid for. The next year, Diddy flew her out to his home in LA, New York, and Miami on a monthly basis.
Wow.
Amongst her allegations, this survivor says that she was forced to ingest ketamine before Diddy would rape her. In one instance, she woke up with bruises and bite marks all over her body. At one point after being allegedly drugged, the woman indicates that she took a pregnancy test and learned that it was positive. Then, according to this survivor, Diddy's employee and ex-girlfriend, rapper Young Miami, who I mentioned was on the Diddy list in part 2, harassed and pressured her into having an abortion. She also claims, and this mirrors Talia's allegations, who we just went through, that Diddy would film his sexual encounters with her. Many people have alleged that.
There's such a nasty side of people in this world.
Yep.
That thank God I'm not exposed to or a part of. Obviously, I know it goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And even right now, while you're reading that, it feels like just, a thing that happened. But as you're going through them, I'm starting to like put myself in the positions.
Yeah.
Or trying to and like imagining it happened with the woman on the yacht.
Mm-hmm.
I was imagining being a woman in the middle of the ocean and some guy's just stripping, like he's like, getting ready.
Yeah.
The fucking terror.
And I will say,
real.
It is real. And as a woman, not to make this into like a whatever, but
you can make it into whatever you want.
You're kind of always exposed to that terror on like an ongoing basis. Like if I hear footsteps suddenly behind me, if I'm walking down the street, especially when I lived in New York City, instant terror. It's just instant.
Terror or concern?
Concern. You're not like Oh my God, immediately. But that concern is rooted in terror, in a primal fear. You control it, you keep it at bay because your logic, sets in and you're like, well, I haven't been attacked ever before, thank God. So chances are I'm fine. But the footsteps are behind me. I don't know who's behind me. I hear it quickening. I think I told this story once. I had one person in my life, but I'll never forget it, where it was a man and I heard footsteps and I guess he saw, like I froze up, like I clutched my bag closer. I picked up my pace. I was like kind of looking over my shoulder and he stopped. And that concerned me. So I looked behind me because I'm like, why did he stop? And he looked at me and he said, you continue. Meaning like, I'm not going to walk behind you and freak you out.
Yeah.
So you keep going.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It sucks.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's constant. It really is. The next person on our list here is Adria English. Former Hustler Club dancer and adult film star Adria English claims that Diddy trafficked her when she was hired to dance at his white parties. From 2004 to 2009, Adria alleges that Diddy and his associates facilitated her travel to the Hamptons and Miami, where she was forced to consume liquor and illicit narcotics and engage in sexual intercourse with party guests. She claims that Diddy demanded for her to perform such acts and later congratulated her for a job well done at the end of the night, according to her lawsuit.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
And I have to preface this by saying I'm not victim blaming because it might sound...
I know where you're going, yeah.
So the woman who was getting flown out to all of his houses on a monthly basis, why didn't she stop going?
So
unless they were all good interactions until the last one.
She has indicated that she felt she had no choice, that she felt pressured. And remember, we know from other alleged victims that he would show up at their houses with security and be like, this is happening. Or after it happened, he'd show up allegedly with security and choke the woman out to keep her silent.
And it almost doesn't matter where you are.
And where are you turning, right? Like that's the other thing with people who have this much power. Where are you going?
Yeah.
He's going to shut everything down.
That is so scary.
Yeah.
You call the cops, they're like, yeah, Diddy, he's crazy.
Well, I think I mentioned in part one that neighbors around his Hamptons home would call the police and they would say, we see these, whether they're minors or not, these young women in their underwear, and that's a quote from one of his neighbors, looking lost, dazed, confused, wandering all hours of the day and night. And the cops would be like, it's a white party. Like, what do you expect type thing.
Wonder how much he's paying them.
Exactly. That's my point. And I wonder if...
Well, in my head, I'm like, if you need to take a flight to New York, Los Angeles, or Miami, you are somewhere else, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it doesn't matter where you are, he could show up anywhere at any time.
He has.
And he has the means and the resources and the history of doing it. So, yeah, okay.
5 more anonymous...
That's so scary.
It is terrifying. 5 more anonymous Jane Doe plaintiffs have filed, all with similar stories of forced drug consumption, sexual abuse and assault, physical violence, and in several cases being recorded. One woman alleges that Diddy would track her location and intentionally made her financially dependent on him. So maybe that also answers your question of why. In the last example, why would you continue going out, aside from the fact that they felt they had no choice?
Yeah.
Making them financially dependent. I mean, they're victims.
Oh, no, I'm not saying they're not. I'm just asking, like, at what point do you stop going? But the financial dependency thing is not, that doesn't hold as much water for me as being physically.
Well, I disagree respectfully, because if any of these women, even if they don't, but let's say some of them have children, for example, and they've become financially dependent and they have nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
And their children are now relying upon whatever they're receiving.
Yeah.
It's...
No, yeah, that's true.
9 anonymous John Doe plaintiffs have filed lawsuits as well. And I'm just going to take you through 5 of those, okay?
So far.
Exactly. So we're going to go through, these are going to be sort of the last 5 lawsuits that we're going to closely examine, okay? Mm-hmm. Number 1, this John Doe, the survivor who was just, listen to this, 10 years old at the time of the alleged incident in 2005, and he recounts that a consultant hired by his parents escorted him into a hotel room. There, he was given a soda laced with an unknown substance, and then he was left alone with Diddy. He alleges that Diddy forcibly inserted his penis into his mouth shortly before he lost consciousness.
My God. What the fuck, dude?
When he regained awareness, he claims that his pants were undone and he experienced pain in his anus and buttocks. 10 years old.
Ugh. I mean, just kill him. Just kill Diddy. Death penalty.
I mean, that's what it does to you. You know what I mean? It makes you see red and want the worst, and it makes you into somebody you're not.
I mean, at this point, you've gone through what, 15?
Yeah.
And there's who knows how many more.
I'm gonna tell you how many more after this.
It's like, yeah, no, he's not going to get better. He's not going to be,
rehabilitated and then even if he is, right, it does not undo.
Yeah, no.
The countless lives that he has allegedly ruined.
Like the amount of people that would breathe and sleep easier if he got the death penalty is countless. Thousands. Mm-hmm. When you consider all of the people that were assaulted, all of the people that they know, that they told, they confided in.
That were impacted by it.
Yeah.
All the, do you know, when we work with survivors, right, so many of like the damages, if you will, and that sounds so legal to phrase it like that, but so many of the damages that these survivors incur are relationship damages.
Oh, yeah.
I have no relationship with my children because I was completely overbearing, because I didn't want anything to happen to them, and they pushed me away in response. I have nothing to do with my kids. I've had 6 failed marriages. I don't know if I'm gay. I don't know if I'm straight. I mean, they're dependent upon drugs because they were doing drugs over and over to numb the pain, or over and over because they were forced to.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a dark place.
It really is.
The second John Doe survivor, a New Jersey resident, claims that in 2006 he accepted a last-minute job providing security for an event at Diddy's East Hampton home, which was attended by executives. During that party, he alleges that Diddy gave him a drink that caused him to feel disoriented and unwell. According to the complaint, Diddy then forced him into a truck and anally raped him. The survivor also asserts that he reported the assault to his supervisor at the time. The third John Doe, who has filed, who now resides in Ohio, alleges that his assault occurred in 2008 in a stockroom at Macy's Herald Square during a promotional event for Diddy's Sean John apparel line. At the time, he was employed as an advisor for Echo Clothing. Remember Echo?
Yeah, I do.
According to his complaint, he was suddenly struck with a pistol and forced to his knees, where Diddy allegedly commanded, "Suck my dick, Echo," before sexually assaulting him orally until ejaculation.
Wait, why did he say "suck my dick, Echo"?
Because it was an Echo. He was employed as an advisor for Echo Clothing, the survivor. So he was being an asshole, Diddy. Yeah, "suck my dick, Echo." Following the assault, Diddy reportedly taunted him, saying, "You like that, white boy?" The plaintiff claims he immediately reported the attack to Macy's security, but was later terminated from his position. He believes his firing was connected to Macy's securing a multi-million-dollar deal with Sean Combs' clothing line.
Wow.
4. This John Doe, a Georgia resident, has accused Diddy of rape, assault, and battery, and aggravated sexual assault. According to the complaint, the survivor was invited to one of Diddy's parties in October 2021 through his industry connections while working for a management company. He alleges he was immediately offered ecstasy, which he declined, opting for a drink instead. Afterward, he felt disoriented and attempted to leave, but a male voice instructed him to, quote, "hold on." Then, the survivor claims that he found himself suddenly in a bedroom, paralyzed and unable to move or speak, as multiple men sexually assaulted and anally raped him.
Oh my God.
He recalls seeing Diddy naked above him at one point during the attack. The lawsuit also alleges that Diddy used the drug rohypnol, which he would often mix with alcoholic drinks like champagne or lemon drops, and then require guests at his party to consume.
Do you know what rohypnol is?
Yeah, it's the date rape drug.
Roofie.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the last John Doe survivor here that we're going to talk about alleges that he was just 17 years old in 2008 when he participated in a 3-day audition for Diddy's TV series Making the Band. He alleges that on the first day, Diddy began groping and fondling him during a private meeting while asking how he would handle situations of, quote, sexual pressure in the music industry. He says that a day later, during another private interview, Diddy allegedly forced him to perform oral sex and allegedly anally raped him. Okay. So these lawsuits that we just went through. So much. And the reason why I walked you through each one, which I realized was lengthy and detailed, is because I want people to feel what you felt, which is, oh my God, these are human beings. There's a common thread, to be sure, but each person is a human being, an individual who endured the unthinkable. Houston attorney Tony Busby, have you heard his name?
No, but it's a great name.
It is a wild name, who has so far filed just 6 lawsuits. And I say just 6 because he has announced plans for a significant wave of additional legal actions, potentially amounting to 120. Okay. Ugh. In a press conference alongside his co-counsel, Andrew Van Arsdale, they together claim that they have at least 120 more lawsuits waiting in the wings.
And that's just them.
That's just them.
Just one attorney.
I'm not allowed to say how many my family's lawsuit has, but we have a handful as well of survivors that we're representing.
Yeah.
Now, we already know that Diddy was finally arrested in September of 2024 in Manhattan, New York, following a grand jury indictment.
Oh, he was arrested in Manhattan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which the motherfucker never thought would happen.
Of course.
Never.
Why would you?
Right. He would have had no reason to believe that he would actually be called to justice.
That's why when you said 1991 before, I was like, man, that's really early to be doing that. But I guess you don't get to the point where you just truly do not care anymore unless you're doing it for a while. I can't imagine how long it might take, 10 years, 15 years to be like, nothing's ever going to happen. I can literally do whatever I want to anybody.
Bleaching my hair blonde. I'm like, it hasn't fallen out yet. So I'm just going to keep bleaching the shit out of it.
Yeah.
Very silly example, but it's like...
it's very just like that.
Until you see the actual consequence, until it starts happening, you don't think it's ever going to happen. So
and there are never consequences until there are.
Until there are, exactly. So over the course of the 6...
I hope you go bald, by the way.
Thank you very much. So kind of you. Over the course of that 6-month gap of time between the raids on his homes and his actual arrest, Diddy posted videos almost taunting the world or the haters or whomever, wearing a t-shirt that would say free on it while sipping presumably expensive champagne, while a man tends to his hair. This is like one video in particular that I saw, saying to the camera, free as a motherfucker. This is what he's saying over that 6-month gap, like a prick. He also posted a video where he's standing by the ocean during a storm with his arms out like this.
Oh, God.
Embracing the crashing waves with a voiceover saying, not hysterical, not frantic, not anxious, not fretful, but steady in the storm.
That shit was played out 10 years ago by these like entrepreneur type hustle and grind, hustle culture dudes that just go out and stand like this in on the beach or something like that. It's like, dude, what does that have to do with anything?
Oh, come on. It's theatrical. It's look at me. I cannot.
Yeah, look at me. Look at how I face the ocean. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You got to admit, it looks pretty sick.
I'm going to drop you in the center of that ocean and see how sick you look.
It looks like you don't know what you're doing.
Right. Well, it looks like you're theatrical, and that in and of itself is so pathetic.
Yeah.
U.S. District Judge Arun Subramanian, who I mentioned earlier, who's the new judge on the case, has set a trial date for May 5th, 2025, which is the same day as the Met Gala.
Which is the same day that I'm going to buy 5 Win for Life, 5 Set for Life, and I'm going to scratch them off with nickels.
That makes sense.
Because it's going to be 5, 5, 25.
That makes so much sense. Yeah. It's been speculated that this date was chosen intentionally so that some of the focus will be shifted away from Diddy and the trial.
And to ruin his Cinco de Mayo, obviously.
See, prosecutor Emily Johnson told the judge that the government would need 3 weeks to present its case. New York defense attorney Mark Agnifilo, who's running point on Diddy's defense and who's a very well-known defense attorney, said that his team will need about a week for theirs. Now, it's pretty clear what the prosecution will be working with at trial.
Yeah.
But some may be wondering, as I did, honestly, what kind of defense can be mounted on Diddy's behalf in the face of such overwhelming, seemingly damning evidence and consistent, very compelling allegations?
Yeah.
First of all, Mark Agnifilo is no stranger to representing high-profile clients. He's represented people like the NXIVM cult leader Keith Raniere, and Roger Ng, who's the former Goldman Sachs banker convicted of bribery and money laundering. Mark is a nationally recognized expert in sophisticated criminal prosecutions and the RICO statute, which is racketeering, and also obviously one of the statutes that Diddy's being charged under.
Mm-hmm.
According to Mark, Diddy will likely take the stand. Now, we don't know for sure the route that Mark and his team will take in defending Diddy, but it's presumed that he will focus on the issue of consent. He will likely argue that most of what is being alleged to have happened and was caught on tape, etc., happened between consenting adults. Obviously, I don't know what they're
What about the 10-year-olds?
What about the minors?
Yeah.
He'll also likely work to discredit victims and witnesses, having already tried and failed to silence them by filing a gag order with the court that would have prevented Diddy's accusers from speaking publicly about the case. But the gag order was denied by the judge, and the court noted that Diddy's request for a gag order failed on constitutional grounds, as it essentially pits the Sixth Amendment against the First Amendment. So the Sixth Amendment protects a criminal defendant's right to a fair trial, while the First Amendment, on the other hand, protects the right, in this case of the victims and survivors, to speak freely.
Yeah.
And in this case, the First Amendment won out.
Yeah.
Now, like other high-profile men charged with sex crimes while facing parallel lawsuits in both criminal and civil court, Mark Agnifilo and Diddy will need to make strategic decisions here.
Yeah.
One option is to request a delay in the civil lawsuits or a temporary halt in order to use Diddy's Fifth Amendment right to avoid self-incrimination during those legal proceedings that may then be used against him in his criminal case.
I can't even imagine how this is going to go. Who knows how many trials this is going to be,
yeah.
by the way.
By the way, pop quiz.
Oh, really?
Yeah. What is the legal term for pausing legal activity in this context? A, a moratorium. B, a stay. C, an abeyance request.
Oh, C.
No.
B.
Yes.
Habeas corpus?
A stay.
A stay.
Did you just want to say habeas corpus?
No, what was the first one again? Oh, a moratorium.
A moratorium.
Yeah.
So similar motions.
I don't know what habeas corpus means.
I love it, though.
Yeah.
Similar motions to delay civil cases were filed by people like Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein while battling criminal charges, both of whom were denied the request, by the way. But legal experts do expect Diddy to pursue that same strategy.
What is an abeyance?
I made that up.
No, abeyance is...
Well, it's a real word, of course, but I made that up. Because
I remember when we watched Presumed Innocent with Jake Gyllenhaal. Hi, Jake. I remember them saying the word abeyance, which that's why I gravitated towards it.
It just means a state of temporary inactivity or a suspension.
So it is C also.
Yeah, but that's not the legal term. The legal term is stay. I didn't make it up.
Abeyance sounds more legalese to
I know,
me.
that's why I put it in. If all defense strategies fail and the seemingly overwhelming amount of evidence proves guilt and justice is served in favor of survivors, what is Diddy facing? If convicted of his charges, 54-year-old Sean Combs is looking at 15 years to life in prison.
You know what I would like better?
What?
I like when they get like 982 years as a sentence.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it could be 15 to life, so...
Yeah, but life feels like...
No, I'm saying they could pick numbers before it gets to life.
No, but I like when it goes past the possibility of living through that. Because life always feels like there's a possibility of parole.
Right.
It's like, well, in 982 years, I'll be dead at least, and I won't have to,
Right.
He'll be in jail until then.
Yeah, no, I get that. Okay, let's dive into the psychology.
Yeah.
At play.
Let's do that.
Let's do it. Diddy's behavior reveals a deeply entrenched grandiosity, a core characteristic of narcissistic personality disorder. His self-perception as a messianic figure sent by God to save the Black race, as he has portrayed himself, exemplifies the delusional heights his narcissism has reached. While he started out as a flashy, larger-than-life sort of, not TV personality, but like industry personality, his unchecked bad behavior and rise to fame, coupled with years of hero worship from fans and media, appears to have fed an evolving psychological detachment from reality.
Yeah.
Over time, his narcissism seems to have mutated into something far more dangerous, a sense of invincibility and entitlement that fueled his alleged abuses. And let's dive into his evolution from your sort of garden variety narcissist to full-blown delusional danger zone. So typical narcissistic traits, which is an inflated sense of self-importance, an insatiable need for admiration, and a glaring lack of empathy, are evident in nearly every aspect of Diddy's life and career. These traits, however, appear amplified by his unchecked power and consistent reinforcement of his belief in his own superiority.
Yeah, and lack of consequences.
For decades, Diddy thrived in an environment where his wealth, influence, and charm not only shielded him from accountability, but rewarded his behavior. The delusion of being untouchable may explain his composure in the face of federal raids and mounting allegations. It's like I mentioned what he was doing in the 6 months between the raids and his arrest. He's wearing shirts that say free. Exactly. He's
drinking champagne. Cool.
Exactly. To someone with such a distorted sense of self, these external challenges would seem inconsequential. His belief in his own ability to control every narrative, situation, and individual around him allowed him to operate, allegedly, with a callous disregard for others. The repeated success of dodging consequences likely acted as an accelerant, emboldening him to push the limits of morality and legality. Then there's his alleged exploitation in every single way. Diddy's alleged exploitation wasn't limited to sexual misconduct. It extended to his business practices and personal relationships. A glaring example is his handling of Biggie Smalls' death. Just 2 weeks after the murder of his best friend and business partner, whose body was barely cold in its grave, and Diddy releases Biggie's album, Life After Death.
Yeah.
This wasn't just insensitive, it was calculated, and it was a clear, exploitative way of profiting off of tragedy.
Yeah.
And it didn't just demonstrate exploitation, it demonstrated a staggering lack of empathy, as Diddy centered the narrative and spotlight on himself, per usual, rather than mourning his best friend's loss or respecting his legacy.
I don't know why people never picked up on that. That blows me away.
Because he cloaked it in, I'm honoring my best friend, I'm giving him the spotlight posthumously.
No, but you keep being in the spotlight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think he cloaked it in a way, it was like smoke and mirrors.
I know, but I'm surprised that
people didn't see through it.
You can't see through that. Like
I'll Be Missing You was like such a hit. It was like a whole song about how much he was missing his best friend.
It was him. All him.
All on the surface stuff too. And I think that until there was a reason to look deeper, people didn't.
Yeah, I was a teenager at that point, and I was like, that's kind of messed up.
Yeah, well, you were spot on.
So smart.
You are so smart. But this pattern of using people for personal gain can be seen in other areas too, whether it's stepping on collaborators to steal credit or crafting an image of generosity and mentorship while allegedly preying on those in his orbit.
Mm-hmm.
Diddy has a chilling capacity to dehumanize others and to reduce them to tools for his advancement or satisfaction.
Yep.
Take his so-called apology to Cassie Ventura. After video evidence of his abuse surfaced, which we talked about in part 2, Diddy had the audacity to make it about himself. So he published a apology video on Instagram. But what was his apology video? I was so fucked up. I hit rock bottom. Where was Cassie's name? Where was the acknowledgement of her pain, her trauma, her humanity? Nowhere.
Yeah.
Instead, Diddy spun the narrative to reclaim control and portray himself as the flawed but, repentant man. It wasn't accountability. It was damage control. Mm-hmm. A masterclass in narcissistic manipulation designed to keep the focus on him as the real victim.
Mm-hmm.
Abusers, especially those with narcissistic tendencies, prioritize control above all else. In this case, Diddy's apology was not about repairing the harm he'd done to Cassie, but about reclaiming control over his public perception. By positioning himself as the one who hit rock bottom, as he said, he played the victim and he deflected attention from the pain that he caused Cassie.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not cool.
No.
So, what drives this behavior? At its core, Diddy's behavior reflects a pathological hunger for power and validation. His narcissism goes beyond self-love. It's about domination, like total domination. Allegedly, his violence, manipulation, and exploitation weren't just random acts. They were calculated moves to reinforce his belief in his own supremacy. In business, relationships, and under the guise of mentorship, the pattern is the same. He takes, he uses, he destroys, all while convincing the world and himself that he's untouchable.
Yeah.
That he's above all that.
Mm-hmm.
Diddy's story isn't just about Diddy. It's not just about one man. It's a case study in what happens when unchecked power collides with deep psychological dysfunction. The media, his fans, and his inner circle didn't just enable him, they celebrated him, feeding the monster that he became. And now, as the allegations stack up and the walls close in, he's still playing the same game, twisting the narrative, protecting his image, and deflecting accountability. And this case is not just about the salacious headlines or watching a king being dethroned. At least it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
It should force every single one of us to examine the systems and environments and values that allow figures like Diddy to rise unchecked, and the cost of ignoring the signs until it's too late.
Yeah, if you're out there and you're celebrating him going down, I would challenge you, which is probably asking too much, but the focus is still on him at that point. Like, don't be happy that he's going down. Be sad that this all happened.
Yes.
Primarily.
Switch your lens.
Yeah, and then this is like side effect of a tragedy that he was running for 30 years, 35 years.
Allegedly, yep.
So yeah, he's going down, but like that's not the focus. And that's probably what he wants. He wants, as much as he hates, or he would say he hates this attention, like it's just more attention.
It's serving the ego.
Yeah.
And the issues in this case, admittedly for me, are personal. There is something profoundly sobering about sitting face to face with a survivor of sexual abuse. In that moment, everything else in your life fades into the background. All the roles you play, be it as a wife, mother, friend, co-host, it takes a backseat. When an individual lays their trauma bare before you, seeking to be seen and understood, the weight of that trust is paramount. In those moments, there is nothing more crucial, more deeply human than just being present, listening, empathizing, and preparing to fight like hell on their behalf in a system that sometimes makes obtaining justice feel like an insurmountable challenge where the odds are stacked against them and their voices can be easily drowned out by a tide of skepticism and bias.
Yeah.
And I use the word fight over, say, like advocate, because that's often the unfortunate reality of seeking justice for survivors of sexual abuse, meaning it can delve into a battleground, a harsh he said, she said scenario where the perpetrator is frequently given the benefit of the doubt over the victim, a sort of default bias that can further exacerbate the trauma survivors endure and turn the quest for justice not just into a personal struggle, but a full-out war. Whether the perpetrator is a relative of the survivor, spouse, boss, teacher, religious figure, spiritual leader, or a world-famous, award-winning musician, producer, entrepreneur, and business mogul, the truth remains. To the survivors who have endured their depravity, these perpetrators have reduced themselves to nothing more than small, insignificant, minuscule miscreants.
Damn!
And I do believe that there is a reckoning taking place, a long overdue confrontation with the dark side of power, wealth, and influence.
Yeah.
Figures like Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein, Mike Jeffries, who we talked about, Larry Nassar, R. Kelly,
Bill Cosby,
Sean Combs, right? These are just a handful of examples of powerful individuals who have used their status to exploit, manipulate, and abuse vulnerable people for their own gain.
The Bill Cosby thing was crazy.
But now, the veil is lifting. This reckoning isn't just about bringing powerful predators to justice. It's about dismantling the systems that allowed their reigns of terror to flourish unchecked. The era of untouchable kings is crumbling, and the world is finally demanding accountability, no matter how high the throne. And here is how I will close out this case. In 2017, Cassie Ventura dropped a single featuring G-Eazy titled Love a Loser, with a verse that said it all. I'd rather lose a lover than to love a loser. Everything you did, I wouldn't do it to you. Got my vision clear, so now I'm seeing through you. Writing you a letter, I'ma send it to you. And she did just that. Except the letter wasn't just a song lyric. It came in the form of a 35-page lawsuit that didn't just shatter Diddy's career, it marked the end of his reign of terror. Cassie's voice, joined now by the chorus of so many others, turned a whispered secret into a roaring reckoning. And for that, as Diddy fights for freedom, the world will finally see these brave individuals as more than just survivors, but as a united force that no one, not even Diddy, can silence.
Allegedly, yeah. I have a question for you. First of all, is that hit?
Yes. That's the case.
Well, I'm glad there's no more. I mean, it has to be over. It is.
It is and it isn't, because obviously
No, it's definitely not over.
This
but
is ongoing, so we will continue our coverage of Diddy. So this won't be the last that we are sitting down and having a Diddy discussion.
Yeah, probably. I just feel vindicated in my initial assessment of him. But it's so much worse than.
Yeah.
I just thought he was like a bad, like not a nice guy.
Yeah, no.
Like a manipulative guy. He's like one of the worst people that's ever
If he
lived.
is guilty of what he is being alleged to have done, he is the pinnacle of evil.
If he's guilty of 1% of what it's
Exactly.
alleged he's done.
Exactly right. He throw away the key.
Reign of terror fits here
Right.
very well.
Because he's a dethroned king.
Yeah. When you say the length of the lawsuit, why do you say how many pages it was?
It just shows you what's contained, how much is contained inside
So a
of
long
it.
one is worse, obviously.
There's just more information, allegedly.
Yeah.
Right? So there's maybe more evidence that's being provided, or more instances of sexual abuse that's being explained. It just typically means there's more to present.
How long is a typical lawsuit?
It totally varies.
Okay. I was just wondering.
It's a good question, but there's no one answer for that.
Okay. Thank
I
you for
cannot
that.
believe we've concluded our first ever 3-part series, with the first one dropping on our 100th episode anniversary.
I know you worked so hard on this.
This was a long, long rabbit hole to have been, falling down for many weeks now.
A rabbit hole maze.
Maze, rabbit hole, yeah.
Labyrinthine.
Labyrinthine.
Yeah. Well, unbelievable.
Thank you for sitting through it, and for your input, and
You
for
made
your
it so easy.
excitement over all of the hip hop lingo, and for being open-minded when I brought up people that you personally love. Do you have a Tanks Diddy for us?
I'm always going to have a Tanks Diddy.
Bring it.
You know why? Because when I listened to today's episode for Unhinged, the one that I listened to, there was no Tanks Diddy. And I was disappointed.
Okay. So
If
we have an
disappointed-
early episode then that we're doing for Unhinged.
Don't worry about it. If I'm disappointed, then we almost didn't do one at the live show, or I wasn't going to do one at the live show. I'm sorry, I almost robbed that of you people. I really am.
Okay.
It's part of the podcast.
It sure is.
So I don't forget exactly what I was watching, but it was like some baseball highlight, right? And the guy was like a little bit too eager to swing at the pitch. So I don't know. You swung a bat many times. You were a softball superstar
Yep, that's
in
me.
your younger days.
I was. I just got weird about it for some reason.
Well, I'm only going off what you told me about how
was.
good you are at softball.
I was, but now I'm embarrassed.
So yeah, because you're hearing how it sounds. So letting life happen to you is frustrating. When you want to do something and you want to make it happen now, and you want it now, and you want it your way, on your terms, on your timing, it's like swinging at a pitch before it's even within the range of getting hit. You look stupid and you almost fall over because you're leaning out so far. If you wait just a little bit longer, you'll be able to make the connection, but that takes patience. So when I think of all the times that I tried to force stuff to happen and it didn't happen, and then I kind of sit back, like I said in a couple of titties ago, about letting happiness catch up to you instead of chasing it, like just... If you feel like you're stuck, stagnant, by the way, another great metaphor, we're getting work done in our house right now. And when it first started, it was so exciting because like stuff was going up, cuts were being made, or material was being ordered. And for the last 2 weeks, they've been prepping and sanding.
Ooh.
Zero change, zero visual change. over the course of 2 whole weeks with plastic everywhere. We have to walk through a zipper every time we want to go through our house. And the dogs are biting them and they're destroyed. And the dogs are peeing on the plastic, which makes it weird because it sticks to the floor then. Whatever.
Ugh.
I know. But that's when the butterfly is in the cocoon doing the transforming. Like, that's a necessary part of it also. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is like patience. When they say patience is a virtue, it's not like a cute thing to say. And it's not like, oh, that would be nice if I had patience. It's like, no, patience is a very difficult skill to develop, because you only get opportunities to be patient when you don't want to be patient.
What do I always say about bravery? You've heard me say this before, right? I say to my kids all the time when they're scared about something, I'm like, how amazing is this? This is your chance to be brave.
Yeah.
You can only be brave when you're feeling scared.
Yeah. Which is one of the cruel tricks of life, is that you want to develop these skills. You don't get the skill. You get faced with the opportunity to develop that skill. And it almost feels like a punishment.
Yeah.
Until the next time when you
have the skill.
And maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's a more intense thing that the skill that you've developed doesn't match up to, but then the next time and the next time and the next time. So listen, I'm just out here trying to enjoy my life.
Showing your titties.
Yeah, man. Just, are they nice?
Should I keep doing it?
You like them? They're real and they're spectacular.
I always say that from Seinfeld.
Yeah.
But not about boobs, just anything. Like, if I make a full fat brownie, I'm like, they're real and they're spectacular.
Full fat brownie. We'll talk about that after the episode.
I want to thank everybody so much for making it through this 3-part series with us.
Yeah. If you're still here.
Oh, wow. Thank you
Come to my house on New Year's Eve.
I know that it's tough because there's obviously a lot of clearly horrific topics being discovered, but this isn't your typical sort of true crime case that we cover on Psycopedia. So if you've stuck with us through this, a really big thank you, heartfelt thank you for doing that. And I already know what case we're doing after this concludes. And it's a good one.
Yeah, it's a doozy.
So make sure you come back, because we're back on track with our sort of regular true crime content.
Regularly scheduled programming.
Exactly.
All right. Well, if you made it this far, you're a real one. And we will see you guys at the next episode.
Thank you so much for listening. Bye.